So next up is Kyle. Kyle's a member of the G team at Groupon. There are so many, I think, different things that we could talk about in the context of Groupon, most of which were prohibited by the SEC to ask about. So forgive me in advance if there are questions left unanswered, because we won't put Kyle in a spot where he's asked a question that he's not allowed to answer. My starting point is this. The origins of Groupon, for those that aren't super familiar, are around social change. The G team is not, like many companies, an add-on to an otherwise very successful business model. It is, in fact, part of the DNA of the company. But Groupon is not the G team. The G team is a part of Groupon. So if the point, which is what Groupon's social element, was not successful, what is the difference from when Groupon was essentially entirely focused on that to where the G team focuses now? What does the G team do compared to an entity that is entirely about that?
I think what's great about the G team and what was great about the point is that, the point is the origins of Groupon. It's where we originally came from. It's the DNA. And a side project was Groupon. And that took off, and it is what it is today. So now we do point-like campaigns, but on the platform that's Groupon, with this subscriber base that's in 45 countries around the world. So we have this base that we can really talk to people now and push that message out there, and just highlight campaigns and different organizations every week to right today 59 cities in North America.
So there are lots of, I think, theories and explanations as to how Groupon works and why people buy and don't buy and respond. What is the G team lens on that? Why is it that a group of people will respond to a deal around an issue that has social importance, but may not, in all cases, be personally connected to them the way they might have sought out a cause or an issue that they had a relationship with?
I think it's much like what we're all speaking here about today. It has to be compelling. We have campaigns that do very well, that they're really compelling. Chicago Public Schools raised $15,000 because they had a compelling story. And we had, the same writers that write a daily deal write ours. So it has that depth and all that background that people can really see, this is something I'm ready to sign on for. I'm engaged to it because I know about the cause. I'm not engaged to it because it's a 5K. I'm learning about the cause. I care about it. I'm donating.
So there's an element of the relationship that someone would form around one of your deals with Groupon, a level of trust, a level of sort of expectation, et cetera. One of, I think, the criticisms, fair or unfair, feel free to call it unfair, but is that Groupon has not done as much as local partners might have wanted to help them manage the relationships that you then help to create, right? Your job was to facilitate a purchase between a local partner and an increasingly growing audience. People were overwhelmed by the success of their deal. They didn't handle the customer service end, if you will, well, and sort of people were upset. That problem seems to exist in the nonprofit community in relation to causes on a daily basis, where I have an expectation that I want to help a cause, and the nonprofit, doesn't appreciate it to the level that I want them to appreciate. So, what is it that you see nonprofits and those who are doing G team work with you not understanding, missing out on in terms of that next step, not providing that customer service? What do you see, and what do we need to prioritize and fix?
Well, our program's a year old, so I always joke, a day at Groupon feels like a week in a good way. Like, there's so much changing every day that what we did a year ago and what we do now, we've learned in that short time span. And so now we provide to we get ready for the campaign. We have a whole packet we send people that tell them how to prepare before, during, and after their campaign, what to expect, templates, things like that to really help them along in the process. We have a whole PR team that's available at their disposal to help them tell their story, to really get it out there.
So one of the challenges that organizations have, nonprofit organizations in particular, is they're not well resourced. So you can send them this guidance and they'll probably still screw it up. And presumably your brand as the G team and Groupon overall is significantly impacted by that, and not in a good way, right? So if you send out a deal and I donate and the Chicago Public Schools doesn't say thank you in the right way, I'm like, screw you, Groupon. You introduce me, and they don't appreciate the dollars that I spent. How do you as an organization supporting, these efforts, but not necessarily having control over how the local direct connection between an individual and the cause plays out. How do you protect yourself? How do you not kind of run and hide every time someone screws it up for you?
It's going to happen inevitably. So we just, we're really there to help them through the process, see what they're putting out ahead of time, see what their plans are, what they have in place, after the campaign, how they're going to try to communicate that. Because we can't give out, donor information because of, the legal part of it. We do have a device set up to, get people their acknowledgement or receipts and things like that. So there is an aspect of that we view and preview ahead of time to make sure all the parts are in order and that, it's moderately standardized. We want it to be some standard to it, but at the same time, we want the organization to put their own spin to it because they all do something different.
And how much of what Groupon does in the non-G team environment would you say is not applicable? How much of the interaction between an individual coming to be a part of a group deal just doesn't make sense in the context of a donation or an interaction with a charitable organization? Whereas, the transactional nature of the other purchase, it's so simple. It's known. It's a part of the thing. What doesn't translate well that nonprofits and causes need to really understand simply can't be turned into another transaction.
Really getting back to the one thing for me would be people need to get back to what their mission is. I talk to so many executive directors that, well, what's the project? Well, the job is to raise $10 million. No. What's your mission? Let's focus on that. Our mission isn't get the people out to walk a race. Our mission is to, save puppies from dog shelters throughout the country. Getting back to that mission-driven, project-specific. So our platform isn't raising every campaign $100,000 for people. We're raising on average $2,000 to $3,000. So that doesn't work for Susan G. Coleman. She doesn't want my $2,000 or $3,000. I'd get laughed at. Instead, that's a quarter of the annual budget for a small organization locally. I want to connect people. Just like we connect people to local businesses, I want to connect people to local organizations that are down the street. Without G-Team, I wouldn't have learned about a sushi restaurant 4 blocks from my house, and I wouldn't have learned about the Lakeview Pantry. That's 2 blocks from my house. It's because of that. I want people to donate, and then I want them to later be involved and go see the community garden that they help make possible. I want them to volunteer, and then I want them to be involved in the 5K and the gala. So it's a different entry into the circle.
So if you guys are the entry point, do you think that the nonprofit organizations and those that run G-Team projects understand that? Do you think that they don't have an outsized expectation of what Groupon can provide to them?
I think at this point, people are expecting, because we're in a kind of an odd spot on the page and things like that are being worked on. And so if people are expecting it to be somewhat like a Nordstrom's Rack deal, where they're going to be inundated, they're going to have millions of dollars, and setting reasonable expectations at this point is what is the first and foremost in all of our minds.
So of course now one of the benefits of being a part of Groupon is all of Groupon's success has the potential to then translate into G-Team success. Clearly, if the point kind of didn't take off on its own, then the 59 million plus people who are on Groupon now have potential access to the G-Team. They have to opt in, and et cetera, et cetera. But there are drawbacks. And I joked at the beginning that there are a bunch of things you're not allowed to talk about because of the SEC, et cetera. But there is a big movement in the nonprofit cause side that more transparency and more sharing and more connectivity to the organizations that you're aligned and partnered with is necessary in order to advance some of these social causes. But that runs almost completely opposite to the idea that if you're filing, an IPO, if you're reporting as a, public or private company, there are things you just literally are not permitted to speak of. How does that hamstring you? How does that handcuff the G team to actually have the kind of social impact that I think you guys do want to have? Because, the benefit of being associated with a large and growing, potentially soon to be public company also carries with it all of the things that we criticize public companies and, large and growing businesses for not understanding the other side of the table.
I think right now the trickiest part is, every organization wants to know how many people am I going to reach in this 3-day campaign. I can't answer that. the information's there, but we can't answer it. What we can't answer is that, anything in the filing, that there's 116 million subscribers worldwide. So that's about the extent of what we're allowed to tell people. Now, what's Boston? That can't be said. So that's the trick. But at the same time, I always tell organizations, all your friends have a Groupon. All your friends' friends have Groupon. You can't think of anyone that doesn't have Groupon. So those are the people that are going to get exposed to your organization. And then what we are able on the back end to tell them is how many people opened the email, how many people had click-through. So those numbers are available to see the actual view of that. And at the end of the day, it's a cost-free program. So you're not really losing anything. 100% of all donations raised goes 100% to the organization. We pay the credit card handling fee. So you're not really losing out anyway.
So you gave your one thing, which I think applies to the outside audience, really understanding their mission and really owning up to the impact they're trying to have. I want to pose the question of what we need to stop doing to Groupon, right? So safe space, no one tweet out the answer to this, right? If you were sitting with the CEO saying, you got to stop doing this because you're significantly limiting the potential that we have to really support causes and advance social issues. What's the thing that Groupon writ large needs to stop doing to kind of really unlock the potential of the G team?
We need to, we just need really to get better visibility to our site. We need to, Groupon's great. They make lots of deals, lots of businesses flourish because of Groupon. But we need to take some time and really put G team on the forefront. We need to showcase what the roots of Groupon is and not have it in the space it is. So that's something that we're working on.
Good answer. All right, you survived. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right.